Hi everyone, in this video I'm just going to go over a couple things to keep in mind when you want to make an input element required. So I'm going to add this input, just a plain input element here to the page. And you're going to find this setting that I'm going to talk about here with most of your input elements, your drop downs, your radio buttons. It's this one here. This input should not be empty. So what happens when I check this box is that I'm requiring this input to have a value in order for a workflow to move forward. So let's say that this input is part of a sign-up form, right? And this input is taking a first name or a last name, a phone number, whatever it is. If you have a workflow that involves a required inputs value, if it has been left empty, it will be marked as invalid and the workflow will not be able to move forward. And I'm going to show you a few things here. So I'm going to have a button, let's say update user. Okay, so this button will make a change to the current user. It doesn't really matter what the action is. The point I'm trying to make here is that if any workflow involves the value of a required input, and that input has been left empty, you're going to see what happens here. So let's say that I change the user's first name, full name here to the value of this input. Okay, so I click on that button, I update the current user, full name equals whatever we typed in here. And we've made this input required. So if I preview this page, and once that loads here, now let's say I leave the input blank and I click this button anyway. Look what happens. It is marked red. It's highlighted because I've left it empty. And the workflow has not happened yet. We've stopped the workflow from happening because we have a required field that has not been filled in. Now, how did it go red? Where do I control that setting? I'm going to remove the style here for this input because right now it's embedded in the style. But if I remove it, I can show you what the style was set up to do. So it has a condition on it. When this input isn't valid, okay, then we change the styling of the input's borders, we make it red, we give it an outset shadow, things like that. So basically, when you have this checkbox checked, you're able to know if an input is valid or not. That's technically what Bubble is checking for, is its validity. Okay, so you can style it differently whenever an input isn't valid. In other words, when it's been left blank and a workflow has been triggered that needs that value, you can do a different styling, whatever fits your app. You can also use the isn't valid or is valid condition here in a workflow to maybe show an alert message if you'd rather do that. So for example, when the button is clicked, this is on the event level here, only when the input is valid, then it will proceed with that workflow. I can do a separate event with the opposing condition. When the input isn't valid, instead of running the workflow, I can show an alert message. Let's see, I'm going to grab this alert. I'm just going to place that there. Must fill in name. All right, this is just an alert element that is hidden by default, and it'll only show when you show it in a workflow. So when the button is clicked and the input is not valid, we can instead show the alert message to give the user a little bit more information so that they know what's going on. We don't want to leave them in the dark. Then you can have these two opposing. But again, you don't necessarily have to do this. By checking that box, Bubble natively will not run the workflow if a required input has been left blank. All right, so that's how those required checkboxes work. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and of course, subscribe to the channel. I upload videos every single week. Thank you so much for watching.